Imagine your funeral. Who's there? Why are they there? Now, for any of us, that moment where our funeral has been happening is really, in lots of ways, to do with the decisions we've made and the actions we've taken. Now, for many of us middle-aged lesbians, it won't have been an easy ride. For many of us, coming out of the closet was turmoil, and dealing with our own inner world, hiding in so many different ways and never really showing up and being truly ourselves. And how has that played out? You know, all of those times when you have denied who you are, when somebody's made a ridiculous comment about your sexuality and you've just said nothing. Those times when you've walked by builders, as an example, and they're doing wolf whistling and ask you what lesbians do in bed. Every time your parents or somebody else has told you, you know what, it's a phase. You'll get over it. And we'll look for a husband for you. Every time that you've had to deal with some bloke thinking that he can straighten you out, what impact has this had on you? How have you ended up hiding? You know, hiding, and I mean hiding, because even your own inner homophobia is torture to actually deal with. That inner conflict, because you know your soul isn't singing. Your heart isn't doing what it needs to do. But you're hiding because you got other people in your life, you hope, like your parents, your siblings, your community. Maybe you're wanting to keep your job because you got bills to pay, and so on. Maybe with your colleagues, you don't go as deep into the relationship with them as you possibly could because you don't want them to know you're gay. Because the consequences of your colleagues knowing you're gay means that actually you're not going to be heard, you're not going to be taken seriously, you're not going to be respected, you'll never get a promotion, you'll constantly be almost invisible. Because what you're doing on the inside is actually showing up on the outside. You're wanting to hide because of the consequences of being above the parapet. So you become invisible. And what does all those years of invisibility do? And then you want to maybe go into a relationship because maybe it's good to have some comfort of somebody else's warm arms to come home to. But with those relationships, they're not easy because they're a reflection of the relationship you're having with yourself. So you don't really truly relate to the other person. A relationship becomes toxic. You try to do things together and it's just that you're become one person, or maybe not, but just all the arguments. And you don't know whether to separate or to stay together because it's easier to be together because it's two people against all the world. But it's just literally more hatred. And the more this goes on, the more tortured your soul becomes. And maybe you become ill. Maybe you have other illnesses, anxiety, depression, cancer, all kind of other stuff. Because it just all builds up. Constant negativity. And probably the worst negativity is that constant chat that goes on in your head. Constantly dealing with the fact that you don't think you're good enough, you don't think anybody can possibly love you. You can't let people get too close because the consequences are too great. And you just never get to be fully yourself. You never get to invited to the family weddings with somebody else. You never get that promotion. You never really put yourself out there and truly risk being stoned or whatever it is that you need to do to actually be fully yourself. Hi, I'm Teresa Milani, and I've worked in mental health for well over 30 years. And you could say I've got a master's degree from King's College London, and I've spent many years in various therapy trainings. But what I'm going to talk to you about comes from the University of Life. Because along the way, I have found other ways of being, other ways of truly connecting to myself, to be the best version of myself. Because this is important. So I've learned little strategies, like taking a breath. Because when we take a breath, and we feel that breath go inside our body, we get to ground ourselves and to just be. And in just being and connecting with ourselves in that moment, we can realize we are okay. We can realize it's possible to love ourselves. Because when we truly begin to love ourselves, then it's possible for other people to love us, and for us to love other people, and to show up as better versions of ourselves. And yet there's so much more as well. We can change the internal dialogue and really pay attention to how we're thinking all day long. And the more we do this, and the more we call ourselves out on our own thinking, and the more we start to think in ways that we will be happy for anyone else to hear what it is that we've been thinking about, the easier and more effortless life actually becomes. So please feel free to message me, sign up for a possibility of having a telephone call with me. Let's deeply connect. Let's figure this out. Let's make a difference. Because for us who have reached a middle age, we have learned so much. And there's so much to give. Like, very recently, I had a conversation with a 17-year-old girl. I was going through many of the same things that I went through as a teenager. And it's like, we can make our legacy really good, so that youngsters don't have to deal with the stuff that we've done.